The ones they picked out for Saints, baffled. Well, not Ben Barber, he was very good, but really, it was Roby and
really
McCarthy
strange
Scarborough who were the best players for them. Let me just think of the other. Yeah, Regan Grace to get the winning try was kind of a bit annoying because he was probably the worst winger on the pitch for much of the game. I thought Makinson was so much. One thing that separated the two sides out, particularly as the game went on, was returning kicks. And Makinson picked up the kick and just set off. And he went across the field sometimes, but he was direct in what he was doing. Whereas Wigan were particularly Morgan Escaray, but also a little bit Joe Burgess and Gildart on that side too, were dilly-dallying a bit when they got into position to pick up the ball and either scoop from dummy half in early tackle set or run off the kicks. And we were not picking the gaps, Wigan weren't, whereas Saints were picking the gaps. So Saints were, if they were getting tackled in between players, whereas Wigan were kind of setting off and then second guessing and trying to go back and thinking maybe they'd fool the defenders. But this Saints defence isn't easily fooled. They're not idiots, and they're not like players that aren't fit enough as well to recover a little bit. So I thought that was one area that separated us. Regan Grace bombed a couple of tries from my perspective, and if he was a bit more physical and a bit better, he would have scored those tries, particularly that one in the first half when Josh Woods put on that brilliant try saver on the try line. But yeah, and then he scored the winning try, so I suppose everything else. And he had one good run in the second half where he ducked under a lazy Joel Tompkins effort. The forwards, particularly the back row forwards for both sides, were very fatigued as this game went on. But it was because it was played at a great pace. There was a lot of dummy half running. Yeah. Mostly scoops out of their own territory, but then James Roby being James Roby too. And my final thing to talk about on this game was why did George Williams try to convert that try at the end? I know it's grossly unlikely that in the probably 30 to 40 seconds we might have got, if we'd have passed up the conversion attempt, that we would have scored a try. But it was a 50-50 at best shot at goal. He'd only had one shot at goal before that season, and that was the one this season. That was the one he scored a few minutes before. Yeah, exactly. 15 minutes before.
So but out wide.
Perfect example of players not understanding the rules and the game situation and that sort of stuff. Because you're at a live game, the clock's fucking big enough. You can see how long there's left. Yeah. He did not have time to set the kick up, kick the kick, get a kick off, and then get up the field to score a drop goal, which would be the only reason of trying to close it within two. Well, otherwise you needed the try. So you've got to get what you've got to say straight away when you score the try, because the referee had to take time off because the Saints player booted the ball away. So at that point, Joel Tompkins, anyone else who was around, whatever, should have been saying, we're foregoing the conversion, can we kick off please? Because at that point, as soon as the try is given, which was good by Hicks to give the try and not refer it upstairs like the touch judge for some inexplicable reason wanted to.
Yeah, it was try.
To send to then you'd got, so that's 10-second sprint back up the other end of the field, or 15 seconds or so. We'd have had 40 seconds. Now you get 2 plays at least to get to try something in that frenzied environment. Yeah. In a big game like that, at least try something. We missed that opportunity. Now I've said everything I need to say until I say this. Till talk about the stats probably, because I'm not going to talk about that bullshit no penalty, because let's be fair, that all that did is meant Sam Powell missed a drop goal rather than us having a 2-point lead at that stage. Saints still would have won.
No, I mean, I have to say I thought that energy was a real issue in the second half, particularly. I thought, Wigan were they kind of woke up early on in the second half. They were they were starting to hit those gaps, and obviously, kind of Tompkins' try was a quality move. But yeah, I made a note from like 25 minutes to go. Both teams looked really fatigued, and Grace looked really, really tired. Yeah. Like he was walking in treacle. A guy who's supposed to be lithe and limber and kind of is there to give you that speed and that reaction. He looked really tired. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it seemed, it just seemed like that there was definitely a thought that, as you say, the ball hadn't been out of play very much. That it'd been a constant flow of action, and yeah, both teams were tired. But just at the end, Saints just had enough, quite frankly, just to get over the top of you. And it could have gone either way. I think the penalty to make it 14 apiece was quite lucky from Saints' point of view. They were, it could have easily gone the other way. But yeah, you can't argue with the break at the end for the Grace try.
No, exactly. They still could have done that from at any point.
I can't. When that wins a game, you kind of just have to hold your hands up and say that's just a great try.
Yeah, there was talk about it being a forward pass, but it didn't feel forward in the stadium. And when I've watched it, maybe it came backwards out of the hands and floated forward at worst. It was what's it called? A Galilean transformation.
Is that what they call it?
We now know that's what it's called. Not the momentum rule. It's a Galilean transformation. Anyway. What might explain the fatigue, Alan, is this game had the most carries and metres of any game so far this season. And it was the first to go over 3,000 total metres, and it had the most dummy half runs. So every player putting in full maximum effort, I would say. Based on the stats, Saints should maybe have won by more. They won all the major categories other than errors, losing 10-6 on the error count. They had 199 more metres, at a slightly better average gain than Wigan, and 8 breaks to 2, which was crucial. That's what I said, they hit the gaps. Wigan didn't hit the gaps. Wigan also lost the penalty count 11-6, as well as their 8 in a row Easter run. It didn't feel like Wigan were nearly twice as infringing of the rules as Saints, so I think that's kind of maybe the home field aspect to it as well. Maybe. A little bit with that.
I need to look at it.
But I don't think anything was wrong that Hicks did. I just think he sort of maybe landed on the side of penalty for them when he maybe landed on the side of play on for us.
Well, as I said, that
Morgan Escrow went over a head knock, so he was smacked in the head.
Yes, you can't argue with that. We didn't get a penalty for that. You can't argue with that. I mean, as I said, they were fortunate for the one penalty to square it up to make it 14 apiece. So,
but I'm not criticising Hicks because I think other than that one decision, I think he refereed it pretty correctly. Just maybe there was the odd thing that they got that we didn't possibly. But it didn't affect the outcome. They earned that by being the better side for much of the game, getting quicker play of the balls, getting into the gaps. Individually, Zeb Taylor, 1 try, 137 metres. Regan Grace, 1 try, 125 metres, 3 clean breaks. Ben Barb, which shows his conversion isn't great, 3 clean breaks but only 1 try. Ben Barber, 1 try, 156 metres. James Roby, 1 try assist, 48 tackles, 5 tackle busts, 2 clean breaks. For Wigan, Oliver Gildart put in a big shift, 142 metres. Tom Davies, 138. Liam Farrell, 129. And then John Bateman, 6 tackle busts and 118 metres. So there you go. That's round 8 wrapped up. We're now going to move on to look at round 9 of the Super League season, the Easter Monday games. So we've had a little break to chat about coastal erosion in between rounds of the Super League. Obviously. But we're now going to. What else would we talk about? But now we're talking about round 9, which was the Monday games. All 6 of these games were played on Monday. Average attendance on Monday was 9,277. So that's 3 rounds in a row with average over 9,000. One of the things about Easter that kind of keeps it as this double header is the crowd sizes.
Exactly.
And so I suppose whilst we keep recording good crowd sizes, we're going to keep seeing double headers at Easter. And the first game on Easter Monday was Water Splash 2. And it finished Castleford 6, Warrington 18. Quite how there was 24 points scored in that on that water polo pitch is beyond me. But it was in front of 6,881 hardy souls who brought out the canoes and paddled to the jungle. Robert Hicks was the referee, and first fan view comes from a Warrington fan.
Yep, so Wire Joe says, Wire seemed to deal with the conditions better and with a dominant side, going into the break deservedly ahead, thanks to penalty kicking from Steph Ratchard and the slick move between King and Charnley, a very promising partnership. Cass threatened in the second half, but were unable to complete the comeback before Daz Clark, the best player on the pitch for me, darted over on the final hooter. A gutsy win from us.
And Fatboy Rob said, Should the match have gone ahead? No. Should Hicks be a Super League ref? Also no. No complaints with the result. Wire played the conditions better and scored a try on each hooter to get the win they deserved overall. Watts played well on his debut for Cass, and Truman looked like a natural at fullback. He also put Benny Westwood on his arse, which was the highlight of a dismal match. I can't wait for summer.
Well, we were saying before the games, before we started recording, that if Cass hadn't had so many games kind of postponed, this one probably wouldn't have gone ahead, would it? I mean,
I can't see how it would have. It was bonkers conditions.
I mean, I've never seen a pitch look like that in terms of just standing water. Just unbelievable. I mean, they couldn't squeegee it off, could they? It was going nowhere.
There was a realistic fear of drowning.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it was, and you know,
which has given me an idea for an end of episode song. But
there you go.
I interrupt. Sorry.
No, it's all right. No, but again, you know, Cass for 2 games in a row. You know, their kind of qualities dimmed. You know, they're you know, in terms of an expansive game, you're going to struggle in those kind of conditions. You just have to play to the weather. And obviously, it sounds like from the highlights that I've seen and from the match reviews, Wire did that better. They just controlled it, and I thought Chandler's try was a really good move. Obviously,
King's try from Chandler, yeah.
King from Chandler, that's right. That was a great try. Obviously, Clark at the end, kind of, you know, opportunist. But yeah, I listened to this on the radio, and from the summary, they nobody seemed to disagree that Wire had just come into it and just played it smarter, and just did what they needed to do.
It seemed to me, listening to the first half on the radio on the way to the Wigan game, that Warrington were better able at getting to the kick.
Yeah.
And then kick into the puddle, see if you can get an error. And that was the recipe to win the end. There was no points in the first 20 minutes. Then Ratchford kicked a penalty goal. I think the last 90 seconds, 2 minutes before the half time, kind of was what decided this game, really, because that was Ratchford kicked what sounded on the radio like a kind of difficult penalty. Had to take it quite a way back to get it out of the puddle. Yeah. From what they were describing on the radio, and then kicked from out wide again in the puddle area from King's try, where they went right up the field, really needing to play between the centre and winger, like you've said, and great splashy finish. And that put it to 10 points to 0 at half time. And really, in those conditions, as Castleford found to their benefit on Thursday night, in not quite as bad conditions, it's really difficult then for the team chasing the game to put on their moves, to score the tries, to get the points.
Did you? I mean, neither. Rob certainly didn't mention it in terms of the decision for the try that was not given when
Webster's try when he kicked it out of Ratchford's hands.
Yes, and that was the decision given, wasn't it? But obviously, he didn't think that, did he? You know, he was adamant when he came up after scoring that he hadn't kicked it out of his hands.
It's hard to see because I've only seen it on the Super League show, which for some tragic reason doesn't ever want to be in high definition, even when it's on its second showing on the high definition channel.
It's because it's regional.
It plays it, but when it plays on BBC One on the regional channel, the regional channels aren't in high def.
Yeah.
Maybe speaking to the people down in London, they're like, "What are you on about?" But up here, they're not. But on BBC Two, when they rerun it, it is in high def. Yeah, it still isn't shown in. Well, certainly it wasn't on what I saw on the Saturday's version of it on BBC Two. Maybe, I don't know if normally it is, but I haven't had time to catch up to see if it was today. But yeah, it was hard to tell. It looked like Ratchford got to the ball. Whether he had control of the ball,
well, that's the thing.
I don't know. But ultimately, I'm not sure it would have prevented Warrington from winning, because Warrington were still able to get up the field, which Cass, whenever they got up the field, kind of tried to put on a move, and it didn't work out, whereas Warrington saw the way to the kick, and that was it.
Yeah, they just controlled the ball.
3 big stat wins for Warrington that indicate they played the conditions much better was a 1.1 metre per carry better average gain, so running hard and straight, a 3.4% better team tackle success, So stopping the other team from running out of rate. And, crucially, the 7-15 error count. Wire also had 3-1 in clean breaks and only made one successful offload in the game, showing